15 years. We've been married for 10 years. And we just have this, we've built this extraordinary life for the two of us. And, if I'm really honest, he is my muse. He's my inspiration. He's my teacher. And he's really taught me so much about what it looks like to what unconditional love looks like, and how fun and playful marriage can be even after many years together. And so I draw a lot of the work that I teach and the lessons and the distinctions I go through with my clients. A lot of it is from my own life. And I think what is so valuable about what I teach is a lot of it is counterintuitive. And so it's teaching people how to do the opposite of what they've been doing. I use this phrase: if you've been zigging, I'm going to teach you how to zag. And that's what you got to do, right? Because if it's not working, you got to do something else. I've been coaching for I've had my own business for about 3 years, but I've been coaching for about 10. And I've been in the self-development arena, really focusing on elevating my how I show up in the world for about 20 years.
Great.
And it really started actually when I was going through my divorce with my first husband. Mm-hmm. And really discovering, like, what is it about me that attracts these kind of people into my life? Because it was like the liar, the ones that my parents never approved of, the ones that would cheat, and just didn't treat me right. And I knew that there was something within myself that I wasn't getting responsible for, that I was maybe incomplete about. Mm-hmm. And, I went into the Landmark Forum with him and being like, okay, we need to fix you. Because you're broken. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And then about halfway through, when we start talking about taking responsibility, and I'm like, what? I'm responsible for this shit show? And I broke down in tears. I was like, no, this can't be right. And by the end of the weekend, I was able to look at my husband, who, we've been fighting. We had been barely like touching each other, to just say to him, listen, I am so sorry. I've been a jerk to you. I've treated you badly. I've judged you. I've been trying to make you into someone that you're clearly not. And I'm sorry. And I'm sorry for behaving so badly. And, you're great the way you are. You're perfect. It just doesn't work for me and what I want for my life. Mm-hmm. And the miracle of this all is that we got to go to the courts. We went to the law courts together. We signed the papers side by side. We had no lawyers. I think we spent a total of $80 to complete our relationship. We went out for dinner, and he dropped me off after dinner, and I gave him a kiss on the cheek, and I said, thank you and good luck. And that was it. That was the end of it. And so for me, that was quite the breakthrough, if you will, or the triumph of that story, because it was not going to go that way. It was a very, very angry and bitter, and just, I had it like he duped me. Like he represented himself when we were engaged as a certain kind of man and wanted the certain kind of things. Mm-hmm. And then after we got married, it was like, surprise, that's not what I'm committed to. And I felt betrayed. And so I was very angry. And inside that weekend, what I actually got present to was that all of how I'd been showing up pointed to an event that happened when I was 9.
Oh, wow. And
when I was 9, my parents, they were married for 25 years before my dad passed away. We were talking about this a little earlier today. And I remember there was these weird phone calls coming through our house. And then one day my mom called us into the living room and said, it was me, my sister, who was 6, and my brother, who was 3. And she brought us into the living room and she said, guys, Dad's leaving. He doesn't love us anymore. And he left. And I remember being 9 years old, standing at that window, waiting for someone to go, ha ha, joke, didn't happen, obviously. But I remember just waiting for him to turn around and waiting for this bad dream to end. And he just kept walking and stepped into a car that I didn't recognize. And I remember standing there and like tears, coming down my face and thinking, my dad doesn't love me and I can't trust anybody, because this is what happens when you trust people, and all, people I love will leave me. And I could see that, there I was at, 20, I guess I was about 26 when I was in my forum, and looking back, I'm like, oh, that's why I feel unworthy. That's why I am attracted to men that I know are going to leave eventually. Mm-hmm. And it was just such an eye-opening experience. And even till now, here I am, it's been about 20 years since I've done my forum, still discovering things about that moment, about myself, even till today, that I'm like, it's like, it's like peeling the onion. It feels like just when you get to the core, you're like, oh no, there's more. But it just, that experience and that sort of disruption of what I thought I knew about myself and life, totally, challenged. And what was worse, so going back to my dad, what you don't know is that my dad had an affair with my mom's best friend who lived in our basement for quite a while, got her pregnant, and she encouraged him to be with her. So I have a half brother. And so when my dad passed away 20 years ago, that was actually the first day I met my half brother. She showed up at my dad's funeral and was like, "Hi, I'm your brother." And I think if it was any other time in life, the reaction would have been differently. But because it was in that moment, what there was just love and like, yay, we're together again. And the crazy thing about it is he looks exactly carbon copy of my father, like face. It's quite freaky. It has been so incredible because now I know, standing over where I am, that no matter what it is you've gone through in life, that you can always rise above. You can always come out on the other end. I feel like too many people use the hardships and the challenges of life to behave in a certain way where they don't feel like they don't have to be responsible. It's kind of like, well, my dad left me when I was young, so this is why I'm a jerk, so deal with it. Really. And what's so beautiful too is that I have this incredible relationship with my half brother, which people are like, what? You have a relationship with a kid who broke up your family? It's like, but he didn't do anything. He was the product of something, but he did not do anything bad. So my mom actually has a fantastic relationship with him. He doesn't call her, mom, but he calls her auntie, and she's like, "Hey, did you eat?" And he's always welcome over. And he's just the most extraordinary human being. But what's even on the other side of what's even more miraculous is that, so after about 4 years, my dad was away. He got sick and he was put on a transplant list. And because he was on a transplant list, he couldn't work. So his girlfriend kicked him out. And so he comes back to my mom. And, this whole time, I remember one of the memories that I still have of that time in my life was my mom on her knees at church praying like every single day. And so there's this time came when my dad came back and said, "Listen, I'm sick. I need someone to take care of me. Will you take care of me? Will you take me back?" And my mom said, "Yes, absolutely."
Wow.
And she said, "The only condition is that we never speak of this again. Like we are closing this chapter of our life, and you never go back. If you're with us, you're with us." And he said, "Deal." And he honored his deal until he passed away. So it was about 13 years after when he got the transplant, and then he lived for another 13 years, and then he passed away. And what was so beautiful about that was because he had that second chance, he took advantage. He used to never go to church. He started to go to church every single day. He started to show up as the best father. He started to really show up as the best husband. And that last 13 years was incredible. And so when he passed away, it was so complete. At least at that time, it felt like it was complete. Now, obviously, between times, things are still coming up for me, right? Thinking, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm complete with that." It's like, "Oh no, I'm not." But yeah, it was just this, when I tell the story, people are like, "Holy crap, like your mom just said yes and just took him back. And then you guys went back to being like, as though nothing happened." I'm like, yeah, like, and this is, I think, one of the things I say to my clients is that when you are committed to something, you're going to do whatever it takes. And you have to be willing to set aside all of those fears of like, "Oh, why if he does it again?" Or, all those things that show up for us when we've been hurt. But yet, if we can actually have faith and do the work on ourselves as well as the relationship, they can still have the extraordinary marriage of their dreams.
Yes.
So I love sharing that because I think that there's not a lot of stories like that.
Yeah, around. I told you we were going to talk about love, guys. And Jeanell's bringing that love conversation.
Love.
So it's got to be love, and having that covenant and saying yes, and she honored her vows through the very end, until death do us part. That is a beautiful love story. So Jeanell, thank you so much for sharing that. And Dave.
So redeeming love, right, is the words I come up with when I think about it. And I'm so happy that you shared the story the way that you did, Jeanell, because what I'm picking up out of this is there's always a chance, right? If I was to put a theme to everything you just said, there's always a chance to change it. And no matter what you've been through, no matter how hard it may have been, no matter how impossible it may seem, you never lose hope because there's a chance for that redeeming grace to come back. But also what I pick up on is is also uncommon, by the way. You talk about how the story is uncommon, but the ability to be able to see past it to the next stage and to recognize that only through challenging a person, our own internal demons, so to speak, and actually facing them head on a regular basis and realizing that those things are never going to end, can we actually become who we're supposed to be.
I think God taps us on the shoulder at different times in our lives. You know, I think that I think the divorce was definitely a wake-up call for sure, because A, I'm Catholic, B, I'm Filipino, and that's a huge faux pas, right? It's a taboo. And I want to say that that was the moment for me, because it was the moment where Jeanell, who is the eldest of three, responsible, good girl, straight A student, people pleaser, yes ma'am, churchgoer, singer, choir, whatever, had to put her foot down and say, no, I am not going to live my life to look good for other people. Because I could have kept going in this relationship. Like I could have made, survived it, but that's not what I wanted. And I had been dreaming, like so many girls, about the kind of man I would marry. And, I'm a very romantic person. And so when I realized that that dream wasn't going to come true, I'm like, screw that. I want what I want. I've been dreaming of this my entire life. And I knew it was possible. I just didn't know how to get there. And so I was willing to do the work. I was willing to look in the mirror. I was willing to see all the things about myself that I didn't like and just confront them head on with God's grace. And, one of the things I really discovered, even just recently, was how much pressure we put on ourselves, the expectations that we put on ourselves or that our parents or society puts on us. And then going, you know what? I don't have to do that. I can actually be happy going against the grain, doing things that people say I can't do, and just creating new pathways that no one has ever walked before, even though it was scary. And I didn't, there's a huge chance that I would end up screwing myself over and regretting it. But I think regret is one of the biggest fears that I personally have for myself. And so whenever fear, comes up for me, I ask myself, okay, am I going to turn around and go the other way? And am I going to regret it if I turn around the other way? And so there's these moments in life where, God, universe says, Jeanell, hello. And then I kind of go, okay, do I go for it? Because this is really scary. But, the payoff on the other side of it is so huge. So, for example, my husband is from the opposite side of Canada. So if you guys know where Newfoundland is, he's from St. John's, Newfoundland. We are like 6,000 miles apart. And we met on the phone. So the things that had to, the way the stars had to align for us to somehow find each other on the phone that day and actually say, you know what, we should continue this conversation. And it's kind of inappropriate, but can I ask for your number? Was just, I feel like, again, one of those moments where God was like, hello, Jeanell. And I'm like, what? You want me to do what? Okay, all right. This is kind of out of line and you might say no, but I'm going to ask you anyway. So I don't know. I just feel like I've always been guided throughout my life. But I think it really started with my divorce. And then I got the next really big aha when I turned 40.